In today's show, we have another of our popular TNT Dynamite Conspiracy shows. And in today, we discuss why did the CIA classify a book about ancient civilizations?
And now, the TNT Talk Show, daring to go where other podcasts fear to tread.
Hello, I'm Tony Fasulo and I share the stage with my esteemed friend and colleague, Tayo Boya. Tayo, hello my friend once again. I hope you're keeping safe and well.
Yeah, what the hell, Tony? You know something? Do you know something?
Go on.
Do you realize how peculiar English is, the English language? I was just thinking to myself a couple of days ago that I'm sorry and I apologize mean the same thing, right?
Yeah.
Well, except at the funeral.
Ah.
Happy weekend, everyone.
Oh, you've got to. Do you know what? I was happy, I was bouncy, I was energetic, and as soon as I speak to you, oh dear me, what are our audience thinking? Come on, folks, what do you think of Tayo? Should he go back to just being miserable and not try and impress us with these?
You're the one that wanted me to be more jovial and everything.
Yeah, but it's not working, is it? Oh dear, I'm going to say hello to our audience. Hello audience, welcome back to another one of our conspiracy episodes. And in today's show we discuss a really interesting one that Tayo actually brought to my attention about the CIA actually classified a book about ancient civilizations. So Tayo, do you want to kick things off?
Yes, I came across this in some sort of conspiracy on a conspiracy website, and at first I sort of poo-pooed the whole thing. It suggested that a book had been proscribed by the CIA in 1966, I believe, and was only sorry.
Yeah, in 1966, the CIA actually classified it.
And it didn't come to light until 2013, when, due to the Freedom of Information Act in America, for which, thank goodness, that act exists, the CIA was forced to declassify the book. And it just leads to all sorts of questions, because guess what the book is about? The book is about, of all things, ancient civilizations. Why? I was thinking to myself, why would the CIA be interested in an ancient civilization? Now, when I say ancient civilization, I don't mean like a couple of 100 years ago, 100 years ago, casting doubts on, let's say, something controversial like, casting doubts on the slave trade or Christopher Columbus or something. No, we're talking thousands of years ago. Like, nothing of any significance, in my opinion, to anyone. And yet, here we are. So I looked it up, I looked into it, and lo and behold, true enough. There really was this book that was written, I think it was published in 1965.
Yes,
and
it was published in 65. It was written in 1963, so not actually that long ago, in reality.
Yeah, but I mean, the subject matter about ancient civilizations. Right? So I looked into it, and then I actually found a copy of the original book, and I thought to myself, I skimmed through it. I thought, well, it's not very interesting, but there's nothing there to be worried about, in my opinion. I mean, there are things in it that can worry a reader if that reader is in any way swayed or persuaded by the argument. But it's sort of the kind of background worry you have about nuclear war. Well, that's not a good example right now.
No.
It's a kind of a background worry about a flood or an asteroid strike or something. We are aware of the possibilities, but it's not something that keeps us up at night because we don't really expect it to happen tomorrow.
Yeah.
That sort of worry. And I just couldn't understand it. And then I found out that actually, first of all, there are several missing pages in I think 57 pages out of the original
84 pages. The original book was 284 pages.
Right.
They've now only released 57 pages of it, and those 57 pages are completely sanitized. So there's bits missing from these 57 pages, and they're also not sequential, because there's even at the early part of the book, it goes from page 7 to page 9. The whole of page 8 has been removed, and you question why is that removed? And it's bizarre.
This being the CIA, you'd have thought they had more important things to do.
Well, it is strange.
And by the way, out of the 280 whatever it was that you said, right?
Yeah.
I understand that the copy that I am able to get, and the copy that's basically available as a PDF online, is not the full story. That there are, and I forget how many pages it is. 18? Is it 8 or 18 pages? I can't remember. I think there's an 8 in it. 8 or 18 pages of that are missing. So we absolutely have no idea what those 8 pages are.
Yeah. I think part of the book, when I first saw it, I did try and read part of it after you've highlighted it to me. And the first part is actually quite a graphic doomsday type scenario. And I think that has obviously been allowed, it's been declassified, so you can read it, but it does beg the question as to what was in the rest of it that still merits the fact that it has to be classified still.
Exactly. If the most worrying bit, to me, what I would think is the most worrying bit, sort of sparking mass panic, if that's declassified, then that's not the problem.
Yeah.
So if that's not the problem, what on earth is the problem?
I think the author, although the author is somebody Chan, supposedly, they haven't actually got his real name. They assume it's a pseudonym. It's not his real name. But he goes on to, I think they believe that he has revealed that there's some links between the world religions, which obviously isn't something that the heads of the world religions want to align with. But he seems to say that they're all linked in some way, and they all share a similar background. So from one source, and over years of telling their respective stories, they've diverged and gone off in their own separate way. But he did sort of imply, and I think that's the bit that's been removed, that some of the religions are linked, but also because of that linkage, which seems to be, you can see some evidence to show that linkage, but that seems to then undermine the religion. So that could be part of the reasoning why they've classified some of those elements, because they don't want that to happen.
Well, the thing is that wouldn't be a problem. I mean, not unless there was proof. Because if you think about it, it's just an allegation. And there are already reasons to believe that religions are linked. There is the trident, for instance.
Yes.
Right?
Yes,
Oh, you know about the trident, do you?
I do, yeah. The trident is it's shared amongst completely diverse religions and gods, isn't it?
Yes.
That's quite strange.
What's a trident for the audience?
Well, it's a 3-pronged fork, isn't it? Like, you see, like, our audience might be familiar with Poseidon, the Greek
god of the sea.
Yeah, and he had a trident, which is 3. Thor. Is it Thor? No. Who's the one that's in the Marvel? Not Marvel.
Aquaman.
Aquaman. Yeah, he had a trident.
You guys are tridents.
Yeah, exactly.
And so does Satan, isn't it? Why does it?
Well,
Look, Satan is a bit complicated because Satan and the devil are actually different characters, but people mix them up.
really?
Basically, you're talking about the principle of evil,
Mm,
the principle PLE of evil
mm,
in the Christian religion. Well, then it could be Satan, Lucifer. What did I just mention the first time? The devil.
yeah.
It's the devil actually that carries the trident. It's not really Satan or
Well,
Lucifer.
okay, you've digressed
Well,
slightly.
no, I'm just trying to clear it up for people. They go, well, Ty, that's wrong. For pedants like me, we'll go like, yeah, not really. But there we go.
Okay, I mean, we've digressed slightly, but there could be some link because you've now said that even though the trident is shared amongst certain religions
Mm-hmm.
or even ones that have gone now, like ancient Greek ones, they
No,
shared
and Egyptian ones, yes.
the Egyptians. Yeah, they shared the trident, which is
Mm.
unusual, seeing as those are all separate to each other, but they shared
Mm.
that. So there are other artifacts that they shared, like resembling of the snake. The snake appeared a lot in Greek mythology
Mm-hmm.
with their gods, but it also appears in the Indian religions as well, and even some in the South American continent. So it's strange, and why people may say, well, snake's a snake. It
Mm.
is what it is, but it seems to appear in a certain position, and it's quite common across all these religions. So that's again something that can't be just dismissed without questioning, I suppose.
It is as if there's a constant theme, if you like, running through these instances. Like the trident is, I don't know if people notice this, it's always held in the right hand. You could say that's because we're all right-handed, but that's right across generations, right across the countries, right across religions,
Yeah,
since the recorded history. And you have to ask yourself, why is it always in the right hand? Why doesn't anybody grab with the left hand?
yeah.
But then most of us are right-handed, so maybe we could probably write that off as a coincidence if you wanted to. And
Mm.
then you think that, okay, why is it always three-pronged? Why isn't it sometimes
Five,
four-pronged or
five.
five? Why
Yeah,
is it always a three-pronged spear?
that's
And
true.
yeah, it's a question that you just got to ask yourself, because don't forget, we're not talking about the spread of, say, 100 or 200 or 300 years. We're talking thousands of years.
Yeah.
And you mean in thousands of years, no artist ever looked at it and thought, you know what, this is a bit boring. I'm going to change this around a bit.
Well, I suppose there's got to be some element of you're gonna use what is commonly used, isn't it? You're not likely, if you're going to depict, if an artist is going to depict something which they've heard, it's normally followed on in tradition, isn't it? You're not going to go completely, unless you're purposely writing fiction and you're making that clear. You're
How about trying
using,
to stand out?
well, you could, but you want to keep some semblance of the people being with you, so you're going to recount things that they're already familiar with, and the trident could be along the same lines. I don't know.
Yeah, what I'm saying is this. It's not because there's a commonality in the religion itself. So
No.
it's not as if the Greek Poseidon came from the Hindu Vishnu, I think it is, who holds
Vishnu,
the
yeah, yeah.
trident, right? So if you've heard about this trident, but it's going to be inculcated in your own religion, wouldn't you want your religion to stand out a bit, to be different? So in
Well,
that case, wouldn't you make it a bit different?
well, yes,
Because yes, exactly. Because what you don't want it to be Hinduism, you want it to be your Greek religion, isn't it?
yeah, true.
Exactly. So why is it that they didn't take the opportunity? And even the devil is holding a trident. If you wanted to make it the devil of the opponent of the Christian God, you could have given him a four-pronged trident, which, well, actually, that's just a fork, isn't it? It's not. How
Well,
can it be a four-pronged trident, Tony? A trident only has three tines. They're called
yes,
Tine.
yeah.
Tines. It only has three tines, and that's what makes it a trident. So a four-pronged trident, Tayo. Tut tut.
I think you've got to sort of take it into context. If you're going to have a trident, well, obviously by the three prongs, but
Mm.
three is an important number through races anyway.
Mm.
I mean, Chinese people, for instance, think 3 is the perfect number. Egyptians see it as the number of the cosmos, for instance. 3 is important in life. I mean, what's the 3 divine principles of some faiths? Light, heat, and life. So 3 is important in a lot of religions because it's such a an important number. So if you're going to build a symbol that your God then holds with power, dignity, faith, intelligence, then the number 3 is important. Look at in the religious Christian faith, the Trinity, the 3. It seems to have a massive significance throughout history across the whole religion. So a trident would make sense to show power, divinity, authority, strength. It's all these things. So yes, there's coincidences between them all, but 3 is a number that people would pick. I mean, we touched on the other day in our other show about when somebody wins a race, why do we only have 3 medals? And that could be also linked to this, that the significance of the number 3 is so important. And because it was important to the Greeks, maybe because they started the Olympics, the first 3 get a medal. And we touched on it in our previous show. So if our listeners haven't heard our previous show, please go back and find it and listen to that too. But yeah,
Well,
so the trident.
and smack yourself on the wrist for listening it.
Indeed.
Well, okay, so there's that. Then there is one, I suppose, the virgin birth is not new, but I suppose that is less convincing because it's a idea of purity, isn't it? That there was the mother is pure. She's so pure, in fact, that her pregnancy is miraculous. And that is an idea I think that could crop up independently amongst different people.
Absolutely.
So maybe that's not as powerful a connection as the more unexpected aspects. But what about for people who are listening in and don't know, haven't seen the images? There are images of gods in Hinduism, in the Greek religion, and the Egyptian religion, and others, where a powerful deity or entity wears a crown, and the shape of the crown is like a diadem, isn't it?
What's the diadem?
Well, it's not the full crown. It's sort of like, how do I describe it? It's easier to see a picture of it. Just Google it because it's very difficult to describe because to make it apart. But it's got this jewel in front that looks like an apple or something.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and all the gods. I mean, not all the gods. Sorry, certain gods wear it, and it looks a lot. It looks very much like the same thing, spread across 4,000 or 5,000 years when there was no internet. And in different places on planet, I mean, places where people didn't easily get to. You could say, well, the Greeks and the Egyptians lived close enough to each other to have influenced each other's cultures.
Okay.
Well, they weren't that close to India, and they certainly were nowhere near the blooming Amazon. And yet you have Amazonian representations with this particular diadem.
Yeah.
So how do you explain that?
I mean, for the benefit of our listeners, obviously they can't picture this. I mean, how would you describe it in a more, so people can get the grips of what they're seeing with this diadem?
All right, well, you're calling upon my abilities now as a writer. I'm trying to make him into a public speaker. Let me see. So I would describe it as.
Is it? I mean, could you describe the queen in the UK? Her
the thing that she sticks on. Yes, without this is not the full crown. It's like the half crown, if you like.
Yeah, not the one that loops around, but you got the little spikes that look.
Exactly.
That go around, right? I see. Okay.
It doesn't go all the way around. It's not a big, heavy thing usually. Yeah. I mean, we
Like a
know when you.
tiara. People are familiar with a tiara. Is it a tiara? Similar or not? Or
Yeah, it is similar to a tiara.
yeah.
I think.
Okay.
Well, I would use it similarly, and then maybe a pedant will take me apart, but I would describe it also. I think a tiara is. Well, I don't know. I think maybe a tiara goes all the way around, but it's small. The idea of a diadem is that it's not the full crown. No, when Her Majesty has the full crown on, it's this big, heavy, no nonsense thing.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So think about something that would work with an evening dress.
Yes.
Still says that you're the queen. Still says that you're the big cheese, but it's not the full official regalia thing. Yeah, that's what the diadem is.
So are
And
you saying there that that is replicated across the board? Is
it's
this
a
what
very
the book?
particular form of diadem, not just any old thing. It's a very particular form of diadem, which has got a big stone in the middle, and it's got a little like olive leaves. I don't know, or whatever. This is kind of like it's held by leaves or in the background of leaves or something. So once you've seen it, you can't miss it. That's the point. And then you're really surprised to find it on a Hindu god. You're surprised to find it on a Greek god. Maybe not so surprising to find it on an Egyptian god, but it's astonishing to find it then on Amazonian sculptures.
Yeah,
That's what I'm trying to say.
because they're so far apart and far
Because they're so
removed.
far apart in space and time, right? Anyway,
Is this what was in the book?
well,
Was that
this is what we read in the book, but it's not what was hidden. This is the fascinating problem. These things are interesting in themselves. I mean, there's some things that I had no idea before I read the book or skimmed through the book. I don't want to give the impression that I read it deeply. I skimmed through the book and I came up with things. I came across things that made me feel really bad. I mean, I woke up. I mean, I read it and then I think I sent you a text that day saying I've been unhappy all day because I feel I've been lied to by my teachers at school. For instance, I had. Let me not tell you this thing. Let me ask you. Do you know? Because you've done your own research, you probably know now. But do you know what is missing from Egyptian hieroglyphs?
what's missing from Egyptian hieroglyphs?
What would you expect to see in an Egyptian, somewhere in some Egyptian hieroglyphs? We've got loads and loads of hieroglyphs, correct? We've got papyri, we've got scripts and things. In none of them, this thing that you'd expect to see in there isn't there.
Oh, okay.
This class of things. It's a class of things, not just one thing. There are several examples in the world
and it
today.
doesn't show up
Anywhere in any Egyptian writing ever. Ever.
Really?
Really.
A triangle.
No, it's not. It's something that you associate with only Egypt. It's not. No, sorry, with Egypt, not only Egypt, but it's when you see it, you think about Egypt straight away.
The pyramids.
Correct. There is no pyramid in any Egyptian writing ever.
I'm aware of that. Well, I wasn't aware of that bit, but I am aware that, the pyramids themselves, because the Greeks had hieroglyphics literally everywhere. Everywhere you visit in Egypt, there's hieroglyphics, and I can't even say that word, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
They're everywhere. But when archaeologists got inside the pyramids of Giza, there aren't any inside them at all. Even though they've got these caverns and these highways and, really weird labyrinth passageways, and they haven't found a single Greek hieroglyph.
It's not Greek, Egyptian.
Egyptian in it at all. And you would have thought, seeing as they put the darn thing together, also we're taught that they have, although there's never any evidence of this, you would have thought that at least there'd be something like that inside. But apparently there isn't any. Now, I didn't know that also in their work, in their writing, they weren't in there either. That's incredible to me.
That is incredible. And I had to really go back and check it. And I checked it thoroughly. Because first of all, I didn't believe it. I thought that was nonsense. And then I checked it, and it turns out to be true. And then you say to yourself, then why do we believe that the pyramids were built by Egyptians.
I'm
Why do we believe it? Well, based on what? And you know something else?
go on.
In which in which pyramid do you think they found the remains of pharaohs?
They haven't found him in any of them.
Exactly. But we were taught that there were tombs of pharaohs.
I know.
So why was I taught these things? Who's teaching this nonsense? This is why I'm so upset.
But that wasn't in this book, though, was it? Or was it?
It was in the book.
It was?
In the full
Wow.
book, yeah.
Wow.
Not the pages that... Because I sent you the 57 pages recovered, right?
Yeah.
Did I send you the full thing?
Yes, you sent me the whole PDF,
Okay.
which I did have a look.
Right.
But obviously, I've not looked through it all. And
No,
I
just skimmed through it, but I suppose I was picking out
the bits that stood out. Yeah, exactly. That's what I was doing. And that's why I didn't know about the hieroglyphics, if I can say that word.
Hieroglyphics.
Yeah.
Or hieroglyphs, actually. Whatever.
Yes, hieroglyphs, okay. That I was aware that they weren't inside the pyramids, but I didn't know that they actually didn't find any of the pharaohs in the pyramids.
Yes. Now, Eric von Daniken, I don't think I have to go, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
He's dead for a
He
start.
wrote The Chariots of the Gods, didn't he?
The gentleman who wrote The Chariots of the Gods.
Yes.
Eric von Daniken used to talk about how stones were put together so precisely that you couldn't fit a hair in between them. And I used to think he was talking absolute claptrap, because you look at the pictures and you see these giant bevels and think, well, surely that's okay. Then I watched the video, and the chap who was very clever, he said, I know what you're thinking. You're thinking that you could slide a credit card or something through the crack between the stones.
Yeah.
Never mind, a single human hair. So we've brought in some lights, and we've brought in this camera, and we're going to, with no photographic tricks or anything, no camera tricks, we're just going to zoom in. And they started zooming and zooming, and then you realize that between the two bevels of the upper stone and the lower stone, there's a hairline crack that you can't even see with it. You have to zoom in so hard. And that hairline crack is so precise that you really can't fit a human hair through it. You absolutely can't.
Wow.
That's how, is it even today's technology, it's going to be really hard to achieve this. How did they do it? 4,000 years ago? Apparently, supposedly, with only bronze tools. And then he went on, this is a video, he went on to talk about, I was looking for his name too, this archaeologist, I beg your pardon, who is seminally convinced that there's a whole load of hogwash, that this was not built by Egyptians. So he took all the tools that they ever found that Egyptians had access to, and he tried to create such a crack. In fact, he couldn't even, because you know what they had? Bronze tools. He could hardly even make a dent in the stone, because these are super hard granite stones. He could hardly even make a dent in anything.
Yeah.
And then his conclusion was that, the pyramids were not built by the Egyptians, especially not Egyptians wielding bronze tools, because you just can't do it.
Can't.
And I'm wondering if this book tells us who built the pyramids.
Yeah, but
and is it something frightening?
Yeah. This is the thing, you see. A lot of it obviously it's not even been redacted. It's actually just been classified, so we don't even know. We have no idea. So the problem we have now is what are the CIA covering up? What is explained in the book? Now we can jump to conclusions as to what the reality is, because we've got these pyramids that we have to question how the heck were they made. So we can ask questions. We can say, well, okay, who made them? Because we can't believe that existing civilizations at the time couldn't have made them with the tools that they had at their disposal, which you've just alluded to. So could there have been a different civilization on the planet at the time and somehow died off? Or B, could it be off-worldly UFO aliens from outer space that actually helped construct these things. Because there's another one along the similar lines. Have you heard of the trialethan or trialotan stones? Have you heard about these?
Well, what is now present-day Syria? Is it Lebanon or Syria? Is that the one you're talking
Somewhere
about?
around the Middle East, yeah. And there's
Yeah.
examples of them sticking in the ground, and there's some of them that are used at the bottom, like the stone on some of the buildings above. And they attributed those, even though they're built far away from the Romans, they have attributed it to the
All right,
Romans.
this is the ones in Lebanon.
Yes, right. And they said the Romans were around that time, so it
Yeah.
must have been the Romans who built them.
Mm.
But even though the Romans were, a very advanced civilization, built the Colosseum, built loads of aqueducts, which are impressive, none of the Roman stones used for all these were bigger than 40 tons.
Correct. I actually read 58 tons is the biggest.
58, okay.
58 was the
That's
biggest,
the biggest ones that the Romans used for any of their constructions anywhere.
Yep.
Whereas these stones, these foundation stones as they're referred to, are 900 tons
Correct.
each.
900 tons each. Now, what's the name of it? What did you call it? Because that's not how it's pronounced, though, that's for sure.
The trialetan stones?
Oh, there's a better name for them. Where are they? Because I know them by where they are rather than, and I've forgotten.
Oh, what do you mean? Where they're in the world, you mean?
Yes, where they are today. There's a name for them. The something temple stones, the something temple. And if you see them, have you seen pictures of them?
They're massive.
If you see a person standing next to one of these stones, it's gobsmacking.
Yeah, they are enormous.
I don't know how we ourselves in the 21st century would build one of those. I mean, I suppose we could if we put our minds to it, but we wouldn't find it easy.
No.
Assuming we could actually do it, by the way.
Without damaging it.
Because 900 tons it's
That's
these things
enormous. And there's several together, and again, they're linked together with no gaps. Yeah, exactly.
No gaps.
It's incredible. How? I mean, these are questions that currently we have no real answers, and obviously there's going to be a lot of people that will come forward and say, "Oh no, they did it like this," and come up with theories.
No, they haven't. No one has been able to say how anybody did it. Given if you're going to use ancient tools, you basically have to come to the conclusion that you don't know how it was done. Because there have been no reasonable explanations. None.
I'm still waiting for reasonable explanations using modern tools.
I'm not even sure we could do it today. I'm not 100% sure that we could achieve it. I mean, look, if we put our minds to it today, I mean, we could build the giant machines and eventually, yes. I mean, for goodness sakes, we built a skyscraper that's, is it 1 mile high? Have we actually achieved it yet, or are we trying to achieve it?
We're trying to achieve it. I mean, I don't know how tall the Burj Khalifa is. But
it's tall enough to be gobsmacking.
Yeah,
so we can do amazing things in this day and age. So, but what I'm saying is, the early Victorians and people like that, they wouldn't have been able to do it.
No.
Not just a couple of 100 years ago.
Yeah.
So how they were able to do it thousands of years ago?
Indeed.
And the mere fact that people, and then when you say when you ask the question, why do people think the Romans did it? The answer is because nobody else around was capable of it.
Yeah.
The Romans are the best explanation, even though the Romans spoke about the stones, but never said we built it.
Did it? Yeah, exactly. They never took claim to saying they did it.
So I wanted to shock you, and I'm going to shock you.
Go on.
I'm going to shock you because I'm going to make a statement now that you're going to find very hard to believe.
Okay.
I've always told you I'm a facts and evidence kind of man.
Okay, yes.
And when I look at something that really discombobulates my existing worldview.
I love it when you use that word.
when I find something like that, I man up and I change my mind.
Okay.
I am now open. I'm not saying I'm completely come over to your side or the dark side, but I am now open to the possibility that we are not alone, because I think that is the most next reasonable explanation.
Indeed.
There's a second explanation, which you've spoken of yourself, and that is that we have had on this planet a civilization that was more advanced than ours right now. But the thing about that is, why I sort of dismiss it, right? Not completely. Why I sort of dismiss it is that I don't believe that would have been enough to make the CIA classify this book. That would just have been an interesting thing. If you could actually prove it and prove that there really was a more advanced civilization than ours, then you would be, well, that's interesting. I wonder what happened to them, I suppose. Maybe they destroyed themselves. In fact, if anything, it would be a cautionary tale that tells us to be very careful what we do with our nuclear weapons.
You see, the thing is, I mean, you're right. I mean, we raised the question, could there have been a civilization on the planet that has somehow demised? But where's the evidence to show any of that? We can obviously see evidence of artifacts, buildings that we don't know how they're built, so we could attribute it to an intelligent civilization, whether it be, earthly or, off-world civilization. Somebody has built these things.
Mm-hmm.
And if it is an ancient civilization that are human, where are they?
Mm-hmm.
Why did they disappear? Have we got evidence of, I mean, obviously in folklore we haven't got any sort of real evidence yet. Is there or was there a Atlantis equivalent continent that these people maybe lived on, and there was some tragedy and it sunk and they were wiped out? But that seems more far-fetched than there being aliens off planet that have visited and did all this stuff. I don't know, it just sounds there's less evidence for the former hypothesis that there was an ancient civilization that somehow destroyed itself than there is for an off-worldly civilization coming down, doing what they need to do, and then choosing to leave again. That sounds more plausible than the former, because there'd be evidence. We'd find something. We'd find, I don't know, bodies or decomposed people, or even preserved people in some way, shape or form. But we have nothing like that. Nothing other than these weird pyramids and other stones and things like that. I mean, I don't know whether it's in the book or not, but it might be. What about Easter Island? I mean, I thought there was a link, but go on.
You see, why has Tyre gone over to the dark side? It's for some reasons you've said just now. If it was an ancient civilization and they were still able to build pyramids and things, first of all, those pyramids seem to be at the very most, functionally speaking, they only seem to be ceremonial. They didn't seem to be actually used for anything else.
What that we know of?
That we know of. No, I'm saying what we seem to be. It appears to be ceremonial. So who had the time and energy after a humongous disaster that destroyed an entire civilization? Who had the time and energy to make these ceremonial temples, if you wanted to call them that, whatever it was? Why would you waste your time in doing that? Why wouldn't you spend your time in something more constructive? So there's that. And then afterwards, you pack up all your tools and you disappear absolutely.
I know.
This is the thing. Where disappear to if you're still on the planet? Now, if you pack up all your tools and you leave the planet, that would be more in keeping with the evidence as we see it today.
Indeed.
Especially when you project this further, and then we go back to these strange objects in the sky that we really can't explain. And when you put those together, then you get what I call, maybe not all facts and evidence, but it certainly is some kind of a smoking gun. Or at least there's smoke and there's gun. And we don't know if it's smoke came from the gun, but it's more suggestive than
plausible.
Ancients, more plausible, thank you. than an ancient civilization which stuck around long enough to do wonderful things, but didn't leave any artifacts behind.
Yeah, other than these constructions,
Other
which
than
we
these
still
constructions,
can't work
yeah,
out.
exactly. This is where I'm coming from. This is where I feel that I really do need to be more open-minded, because I mean these latest videos from the Americans of the little UFOs that they tracked, and we
The
have
Tic Tac
the Tic Tacs.
video, and that one which looked like a spinning top that was manoeuvring in such a way that,
I used to
yeah,
believe before that it was. I just wrote it off. I don't know what that is. But this book is again goes back to the CIA. It's the questions left behind by why did the CIA classify this book, these pages, as the missing, the more than the book, the part that's been classified, more than that is the other part that's not even available to us at all. The 8 pages that we can't find anywhere. 8 or 18, I can't remember, as I said
gosh,
before.
more than that. Because if you think about it, the original book is 284 pages long. They have only released 57 pages.
Yes, but
So
we have access
80%.
to, well, no,
Yeah.
we have access to more. This is why I said, did I send you the actual thing? The whole of it.
The one I've got, that I actually downloaded, would you believe? I thought that's what you sent me. You sent me the link to the CIA site, and I actually downloaded the PDF, and it is 57 pages long.
No. I thought I sent you. There's another one. I
Oh,
was able to get basically what was published,
the
the whole
original
thing.
284 pages. I thought
That's
that
the
wasn't
point.
available.
That's the point. It's not 284. That it's less. That's the problem. The pages missing. I mean, it's more. It's 230 something.
Oh, I see. So you've
Yeah,
actually managed to get almost the original book, the 284 pages in its entirety.
correct.
Oh, I've only seen the CIA
Oh, I'll send it to you then.
declassified
Sorry,
one.
I don't know why I didn't. I
Ah.
thought I sent it to you.
No, you sent me
No.
a link, which I then went to the CIA site itself
Right,
and
right.
downloaded it. That's
Well, I
what.
want us to publish that link because I want people to understand that it is from the CIA. That we're not kidding here.
Right.
It's
Yeah,
not.
yeah.
It's not a conspiracy theory. It's
No,
actually
it's
on the
exactly.
CIA's website.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Right. So that's why I sent that to you. Then I thought later on
Right.
I sent you the full book.
No, you haven't.
Well, the
No.
fullish book, the full-ish one, FULLISH. It's not the full book.
Right.
We can't
Okay,
get
but it's the fuller book.
the fuller book.
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
the publisher says that's all they can publish, and that's what it says on the website. And that's all they can publish. Not that that's not all we're allowed to publish. It just says that's all we can publish.
Goodness me. Is that because the CIA even well? If the CIA have only allowed 57 pages out, why are they allowing the publisher to put out an almost complete book? Which
I think because it got out before they proscribed everything. It was already, they didn't know that the guy was going to publish the book, did they? So he published his book. People read it. Maybe someone in CIA brought it in, read through it and thought, oh, we can't have this, and then classified it. That's why it was published in 1965, but it wasn't classified until 1966. So there were already copies running around.
Yes, I see. I see.
And I don't know if they went around and sanitized, got other pages. And so the pages that we actually have, someone's been able to put out there somewhere,
Yeah.
somehow, and that's how we have the pages at all. And we need to be grateful that we've even got those pages.
What really also gets me in the bit that I'm reading from this Adam and Eve book is how did the author, whoever it was, because the author's named on the front of the book as what's his name? Chan Thomas. But apparently that's a made up name. But he goes on to talk with, I mean, where does he get his information from? This is what's strange.
There were some people who were arguing. He was part of an academic set of people who were interested in ancient civilizations, and I didn't know this. There's been an argument since about the 18th century, something like that, there's been an argument about the nature of catastrophes, and schools of thought have risen up. And various people have done various kinds of research and everything. And so their body of knowledge is built up over time. And the fundamentals of the argument is how often are the catastrophes overtake mankind. Now, one school of thought is that there are small catastrophes that happen relatively regularly. And another school of thought is that there are humongous epoch ending. That is to say, your entire civilization disappears. Epoch ending. An epoch is basically long enough for a civilization to like our current civilization to rise and reach its zenith.
And is this an ELE event?
Sorry?
ELE event. ELE.
I don't know what that is.
Extinction level event.
Oh, okay.
That seems to be a buzzword I've heard before, but okay.
Yeah, well, I suppose it could be something like that. But that's not. Well, the school of thought is there are these humongous catastrophes, and they only take place every several thousand years. So it's not regular.
Yeah.
But when it happens, by golly, that's the end of everything.
Right.
And this is perhaps maybe what the CIA might have been scared of, but I doubt it. I can't bring myself to believe it, because it's based on the catastrophe caused by polar shifts. What is it?
Magnetic shift.
Magnetic shifts. The scary thing being that one was predicted and is actually happening now.
Yeah.
And when I was doing the research for this episode,
yeah,
I came across a very interesting picture that shows why being in such an event, being alive at such a time, would be unreasonably exciting. Can I put it like that?
I'm not sure I would put that term as an exciting, but
yes.
Do you want to explain what the magnetism is, the magnetic shift? So some of our listeners may be wondering what they're on about now. What's that mean? Do you want to clarify what that is?
I hope that anyone listening to this podcast knows already that the Earth has two magnetic poles, basically North Pole and South Pole, basically, are magnetic poles, which is why compasses work. If you've got a magnetic compass, it will point to the magnetic north, but it will align itself north-south. And this is how we started as humans, at least in this civilization. This is how we started navigating across oceans. We use the magnetic field, basically, of the Earth. Yeah. It's not just handy for navigation, actually helps us stay alive.
Yeah. Because
the sun pumps out X-rays and gamma rays and all sorts of very, very, very harmful radiation.
Yeah.
But Earth's magnetic field acts as a shield and deflects most of that radiation away from the Earth. So the reason we can actually go out, leave houses and things and expose ourselves to sunlight is because of the magnetic field. There have been a couple of Hollywood movies which have shown, speculating on what would happen if we were to lose our magnetic field. And one thing is, you just wouldn't be able to go out during the day. It's just that simple. Yeah. You'd be dead in minutes. You'd be microwaved.
Yeah.
So, the Earth's magnetic field shifts, apparently.
Yes.
From time to time.
It flips, doesn't it?
It flips. And it starts off a little bit, a couple of inches a year, and then it starts being a couple of feet a year, and then it starts being a couple of miles a year. And I had no idea, none whatsoever, that we have gone to the couple of miles a year. In fact, it's more than a couple of miles. I read an article online, I wish I could tell you where, which was published not so very long ago, I think in the early noughties, mid-noughties, and it said the pole had shifted 300 miles.
Wow.
From 1990. But if you look it up today in 2022, it's now 600 miles. So,
Wow.
yes, that is what I'm saying, that actually it's going very, very fast. And I'm trying to do a lot more reading about it because it seems like it's the flip could happen, is likely to happen in at least the lifetime of our children, Tony,
Yes.
if not even in ours,
Mm.
which is basically, in terms of geological time, that's any time, any second now, basically.
Yeah.
Now, audience, I don't mean literally any second now, although it could be. But I mean, when you think about thousands and thousands and thousands of years,
Yeah.
and then we're talking about the next 20, 30, 40 years, that really is just, any moment now.
Yeah.
And when that happens, the image I'm looking at is that on the left, it says between reversals, and it shows you a North Pole and a South Pole in the magnetic fields as we see them in books,
Yes.
right? And then on the right, it says during a reversal.
Yeah.
And instead of one North Pole, there are 3 North Poles. And then instead of 1 South Pole, there are 4 South Poles. And it's all a mess.
Yeah.
The magnetic field lines are everywhere and everything. You can, and so what the book says, the Fuller book, is that when we get into this reversal time, because the center of the Earth is molten, is a molten core, iron core.
Yeah.
It shifts and does things that causes enough stresses and strains to break apart continental plates and let free-flowing, superheated magma come screaming up from the depths. And this magma is coming up at 2,000 degrees centigrade. 2,000 degrees centigrade. And it comes up, it superheats the air and causes basically an explosion, if you like, of air. Because the air tries to get away from it, obviously you try to get, and then it moves at supersonic speeds, whipping up waves, whipping up the sea, and causes tsunamis as high as 2 miles. Breaking apart continents, as I said, destroying mountains, laying them low, raising new ones, just continents sort of falling into the ocean, well, being swept away by the ocean. And afterwards, 6 days apparently, I don't know how they worked that out.
This the thing. Can I just jump in here? I know this is sort of spelled out in this book, but the thing is, this is not the bit that was classified. This bit has actually been declassified.
Very good point, Tony. Very worrying point, actually.
So the CIA aren't actually bothered about this, otherwise they wouldn't have declassified it, really. The bits I'm concerned about are the bits that are still classified. Because
I think I have to tip my hat to you. I think I have to tip my hat to you there and say, you're right.
Yeah.
You're absolutely right.
Because this sounds, if you read it fully, it sounds like some sort of doomsday prophecy. Okay? Because I have to jump in only because science today has, because obviously this has been declassified, it has been talked about in terms of what the prediction in it says, and it's classed as cyclical catastrophe theory, and it's to do with the magnetic poles changing. Now, modern science seems to say that when the poles do shift, it isn't a doomsday scenario as this is outlining. Granted, it will cause us problems for sure. There'll be outages of electricity for days, our satellites will not work, our GPS is screwed up, we'll have all these problems, but it's not an LE event, extinction level event. It's a problem, but it's not an LE event. You were right in what you said, you can't go out, but it won't be forever. It will be while the poles shift. And they're saying that it could be up to the shifting process, once it tips, could be up to 30 days. It could be even less. could be up even to a week. It really depends on how the shift actually happens. But when it sort of gets to a point, and then all of a sudden it goes boom, and then it happens like, you know, you tip the balance. It's like the camel. What's the phrase? The straw that breaks the camel's back. It gets to a
That's an
certain point.
unfortunate phrase.
I know. But it gets to a certain point, and then it just flips, boom, and then it does it. And that flipping, it could be quite quick. But the other thing is that science can see it happening. So we will know when it's about to happen. So we can better prepare ourselves. And it isn't, well, I know it sounded doom and gloom as what Tayo has just suggested, but that isn't the likely scenario were it to happen in the next, 10, 20, 30 years. We can spot it, we can see it, and we can prepare for it. We can't mitigate it completely because of what we just said in terms of you won't be able to go outside for a while. There will be some crops that will be destroyed because they're not protected. But yeah, go on, Tayo, you want to add on?
The thing is, I don't trust the system today. No, not scientists, the system. Because I was completely unaware that the poles have shifted so far. We've had to do two things. And I think in an open society, because I follow the news and everything and I'm interested in these things, I think I would have known about it in an open society. And the first thing is that we've had to change, upgrade our GPS. I didn't know about that. And secondly, we've had to change the runway numbers on several airports because it's moved that much. Yes, really.
Wow.
Okay. And this is all since 1990.
Okay.
That's 30 years ago, 32 years ago.
Yeah. So they've been aware of it.
They've been aware, and they're not telling anyone.
But then maybe that's part of the reason why the CIA have classified some elements of the book, because it may bring up things which will unduly alarm the population as a whole. Now, it's like we've touched on it before, and I'm mindful of the time, by the way, because we're getting close to the end of the show. But they're doing it because they're protecting the massive people out there who are, unfortunately, not like our listeners, for instance, not like you and I, perhaps, who are wanting to know what's going on. There are a big bulk of the population that just don't want to know if there's things out there that are harmful. They just want to go to work, do their day-to-day stuff, meet their friends, have enough food on their plate, and that's it. They don't want to know the stuff that you and I want to know or our listeners want to know about. They don't want that. So if something contained in this book might, I don't know, what's the word I'm looking for? Completely destroy their view of their current life, they don't want to do that. They will end up in stress. They could, you could end up with more people having breakdowns. You could have people just not dealing with life anymore because they could be so traumatized by what things in this book could pertain to that's why they keep this stuff secret.
Well, there are two reasons why I don't believe you.
Go on.
Why I'm not believe you. There are two reasons why I think we need to pay better attention than that, and I'll tell you why. Because of the Sahara and the Berescova mammoth.
Is this the mammoth that was found with the bits in its mouth?
Still eating.
Yeah.
It died so suddenly that it still had a mouthful of food.
It was digested in the stomach.
Well, I think, never mind that, because you can die after a meal, can't you? But if you're in the middle of chewing and you die, basically die standing up, by the way.
But what did it die of? Did it suffocate? We don't know.
It's frozen, super frozen air.
But this is a mammoth. They're designed for cold.
So the air would have been like minus 200 degrees or something, or even colder. There was a film that actually, I think probably based on, not entirely based on, but they used this Berescova mammoth as an idea. I can't remember who the star was. It had this super cold air coming directly from space, from the layer of air that's close to space.
Yeah.
And apparently, if that comes down and wherever it goes, everything will just die, just like this like this flash frozen mammoth in literally in not even I mean seconds. I say seconds,
a
but
very short period of time.
yeah, very short. It's not you don't have enough time to fall to the ground.
Wow.
Yeah, because everything, your brain is frozen, your heart is frozen, your blood is frozen, everything is frozen. It's a
Wow.
very quick death. But
Indeed.
so
Not a
the
good
other, that's one, and then I said the Sahara. The Sahara used to be a lush, verdant land with rivers, lakes, and greenery, animals. This is why in Sahara you still find the carcasses, the skeletons of amphibians and fish
Yeah.
in the Sahara. And apparently that all disappeared in less than 100 years. Less than 100. So that's like the Amazon today.
Yeah.
The Amazon rainforest just being gone
Becoming in a desert. Wow.
by the end of the century and becoming a desert.
Wow.
So whatever happened really quickly and catastrophically. And that's why I believe that we can't just write it off and just say everything is fine. I don't believe that at all.
Okay. I'm mindful we've now reached the end of the show because we could talk about this subject even longer because there's still questions that we haven't even touched on regarding this book. But I think we're going to have to leave it. We may revisit this again because it's such a powerful story that I think it's worthy of another show at some point. But unfortunately, we have reached the end of the show for another week.